Yes, the classic whodunit. We're going to have to use completing the square to figure out what in the world is going on. Now, I will tell you there are some clues here. We see that we have both x squared and y squared, so that typically means we either have a circle, an ellipse, or a hyperbola. Well, how can you tell the difference? Well, if the x squared and y squared are both positive, and they have the same coefficient, a circle. If they're both positive, but they have different coefficients, typically an ellipse. But if one is positive and one is negative, now we're talking about a hyperbola. The one thing you got to watch out for, though, especially when you're talking about an ellipse or a circle, is that the constant that you end up with on the right side has to be positive. Otherwise, we're in trouble. So as we've done in the past, let's rearrange these terms. So I'm going to rearrange and put the x's together, so 9x squared plus 36x. Leave some space. Minus 4y squared plus 40y. Leave some space, and on the other side we have positive 100. Now, as we did before, we want to factor out that leading coefficient for each of these groups. So factor out the 9. We have x squared plus 4x. Leave some space because we got to have room to complete the square. This next part, factor out a negative 4. So we would have y squared minus, pay attention to your signs, 10y, leave some space, and then we have the 100 here on the right side. We'll work with him in just a moment. Next, we are trying to complete the square for the x and for the y. So, with the x, same rules we've always done. Take half of 4, and that goes in the factorization, so it's going to be x plus 2. 2 squared is 4, and that's what goes in the gap. Now, you can't just put it there and then run away, because we added 4, and that changes the problem. And we didn't just add 4. We added 4 times the 9, right? So that means we need to add 36 on the right. That way things are balanced. Then we look at the y's. Half of negative 10 is negative 5. Negative 5 squared is plus 25. But again, we didn't just add 25, we added 25 times that negative 4. And yes, you have to include the negative there. So negative 4 and 25 multiply to give me negative 100. So when we combine everything on the right side, oh, that's kind of nice. 100 minus 100 is 0, so we just have 36. But we can't stop here. For an ellipse or a hyperbola, you've got to make sure that you have a 1 on the right side. So divide everything by 36, which should not pose a problem to us whatsoever. And now we have x plus 2 quantity squared over 4 minus y minus 5 squared over 9, and this equals 1. So we have a really good idea about what's going on here. We can easily find the center. You can find your A and your B. So let's go and do that. It's now just like the other problems that we've been doing. So A is 2. From here, B equals 3. And then we should be able to easily find C. So we're going to find C the same way that we always do, right? For a hyperbola, C squared is equal to A squared plus B squared. C squared equals 13, so C equals the square root of 13. All right, let's answer all of these questions. The center. The center is located at negative 2, positive 5. Easy enough. Maybe we should draw a picture. So here's my center at negative 2, 5. Because the x is positive, I know my vertices are going to be out to the left and to the right. And according to my A value, they're going to be out here by 2 units, left and right. So let's go ahead and mark that. The vertices are going to be 2 units to the left, negative 4, 5, and then 2 units to the right. So adding 2 to that, 0, 5. My foci. So the foci, let's see, we should be opening out to the sides like this. My foci should be the guys that are inside here. And they are C units away from the center. So my C is a radical, so it's going to be -2 to the right and to the left, square root of 13 units. And we're going to keep the same y value, which is 5. All right, looks good to me. Now let's talk about your axes. What is the transverse axis? The orientation tells me that my transverse axis is horizontal. Y equals, again, look here, it's 5. Which then means my conjugate axis is a vertical line going through the center. X equals -2. And again, just to remind you guys that the transverse goes through the center in the two foci, and the conjugate is perpendicular to that, going through the center. So if the orientation was opening up and opening down, then the transverse axis would be x equals, and the conjugate would be y equals. Your asymptotes. Asymptotes. All right. So we have y minus 5 equals plus or minus b over a, 3 over 2. So 3 over 2 times x plus 2. Again, using that point slope formula, focused at the center, and then we should be totally good from that. Your domain. Again, orientation tells me that I've got that break in the middle, so -infinity up to, on the left, is -4. It takes a break, and then the right half starts from x equals 0 and goes toward infinity. And the range is all real numbers. So there you go. Done and done, right? Take your time, draw a quick sketch, get an idea about the location of everything, and no problems. All right, so let's run it again. Do something very similar to it. And let's try this. We have negative 9x squared plus 25y squared plus 126x minus 150y minus 1116 equals 0. Numbers are just numbers. That's it. We know what we need to do. We need to rearrange this so that we have x's together and the y's together. So negative 9x squared plus 126x, leave some space, plus 25y squared minus 150y, leave some space, equals 1116. All right, factor. So we're going to factor -9. Then we have x squared minus, pay attention to your signs, 14x, leave some space. Let me just double check to make sure I did the math right. Looks good. And then plus 25 y squared minus 6y, leave some space. And now let's complete the square. So -9 times x and something squared, and 25 times y something squared. All right. For the x's, half of -14 is -7. -7 squared is 49. Now again, we added 49, so that changes things. We multiply these out. All right, so let's see. 9 times 49 for 41. Yeah, that makes sense. So, oh, but this is -9, right? So I got to go minus 441. And then over here, half of -6 is -3. And -3 squared is +9. 25 times 9 is 225. So it's plus 225. Don't want to add all this. You know what? I guess I'm feeling kind of lazy. I want to make sure I don't make some kind of weird careless mistakes. Let me grab my calculator. So 1,116 minus 441 plus 225. Well, isn't that a cute number? If I use the right color. 900. All right, I'm digging it. But we have to divide everything by the 900 because we're supposed to have 1 on the right side. That way we can clearly identify our A and B. So looking at the way this is going, I can see that my x is going to be the negative fraction, so the orientation is going to be branches opening up and down. So I want to rewrite this so that the y piece is first. All right, so we have y minus 3 squared over 25 goes into 936 times. Do the division on your calculator if you don't believe me. You know what? I feel like I might want to do that. Yeah, 36. I was fine. I was right. Minus, we have x minus 7 squared over 9 and 100 reduced to give 9 and 900. Yes, reduced to give me 100. All right, so here we go. From here, like we've done for all the other problems, identify your A, B, and C. Get that rolling, knock out a bunch of stuff easily. So because this is underneath my y, this is my b. So b is the square root of 36. A is the square root of 100. And c squared is going to be the sum of these guys. So 136, which means c is the square root of 136. Let's see, how does that reduce? So I believe that reduces to, well, let's think about this. So this breaks down as 4 times 25 and 34. So we have 2 square roots of 34 is our C value. All right, so drawing a quick sketch of this, my center will be the ordered pair. I can be careful, I told you about this. It comes from the x first, so 7, and then the y coordinate comes from here, so 7, 3. This is my center. We are stretched 6 units in the y direction, so we're going to go 6 units up for a vertex and 6 units down for the other vertex. So that's 6. So my vertices will be 6 up from this, 13, nope, 7, 6 up from that is going to be 9, and the other one is going to be 7, and 6 down from that is going to be -3. Yeah, sometimes I get going way too fast. I get into like a certain groove, and when things change, I totally miss what's going on. So you're changing the y direction by 6. So +6 and -6 from that 3. Your foci will be plus or minus this for the y direction. So x is still 7, and then a 3 plus or minus 2 square roots of 34. The way that my graph is set up, these will be my branches. Your transverse axis is the axis that goes through the center and the foci. It's a vertical line here. In this case, x equals 7. Your conjugate axis is the one that is perpendicular to that going through the center. So that means horizontal line in this case, y equals 3. And our asymptotes. So y minus 3, because again, we're going from the center, that's going to be our main point, equals plus or minus b over a. 6 over 10 becomes 3 over 5, and we do times x minus 7. All right, so we had this order pair right here, which was 7, 9, and this other one, which was 7, negative 3. So using this picture, it's very easy to come up with the domain. The domain is all real numbers. And then my range, you see we're coming from negative infinity up to a y value here of negative 3, including that guy, union. We pick back up when y equals 9 and going up to infinity. Yeah, so there we go. As you see, for all these problems, you find the center, you find the A, the B, find the C, draw a picture, get yourself oriented correctly, and you shouldn't have any problems.